good. Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're gonna have a look at this beast of a machine. This is not your average Bronco. This is the Bronco Raptor. So we're gonna talk about, of course, some of the spec and tech of this beast, and then we need to talk about this design. What actually separates it from the regular lesser Bronco, the Bronco normal one and the Sasquatch one. There is a lot of differences here. And then of course we're gonna jump into the interior as well and have a look at that. We're not gonna jump into Photoshop today, maybe just a little bit. We'll see about that, but let's jump in and talk about the spec and tech of the new Bronco. Massive thanks to Urban Motors for letting me get my hands on this Raptor to review for you guys today. They currently have 3 locations around Denver, and they have some very cool and unique vehicles for sale. I'm going to list their website down below, and I encourage you to go check them out. The starting price for this Bronco, it starts at $76,580, but good luck finding it for MSRP today. They go for a lot more than that these days. It has a 418 horsepower twin turbo 3-liter V6 that makes 440 pound-feet of torque, connected to a 10-speed automatic transmission. 0 to 60 in this beast, 5,700 pounds, is done in just 5.5 seconds, which is super impressive. The top speed is limited to 114 miles per hour, and that of course has a lot to do with these, the massive BF Goodrich 37-inch tires that come standard on the Raptor, with these beadlock capable wheel and the Ford logo right there in the center. So what makes this different from the regular Sasquatch? A track that is 4 inches wider than the Sasquatch. It also has a higher ground clearance, obviously, with these tires helping out with that. So you have 13.1 inch ground clearance compared to 11.5 for the Sasquatch. And one design feature that I love about this car is the amber lights that we have in the front end, both in the daytime running lights. So if you're running at night and you see a Bronco coming towards you and you wonder what type of beast is that, you want to know if it's a Sasquatch or if it's a Bronco Raptor, all you have to do is just look at these lights, and if they're amber, you know that you have a Raptor coming towards you. And of course, since it's so wide, it's wider than 80 inches, you need to have these marker lights in position as well. You have these 3 called Raptor lights for a reason, because the Ford F-150 Raptor was kind of the one that made that cool. And you also have to have indicators like that on the very far end of the car. So you have those right here in the mirror, and you also have the red one. Looking at it from this view, you have it here as well. So it's very well, or genius integration of this, since it's mandated for a wide vehicle like this. Other details on the front that separates it from the normal Sasquatch is, of course, you see this grille with the big Ford letters stamped here. I think it looks, in my opinion, I prefer this grille to the grille that says just Bronco in the middle. I don't know, I think this looks a lot cooler. You also have a massive skid plate right here with this removable bumper and the rigid fog lights in each corner. The integration of these fog lights look pretty interesting. It looks pretty aftermarket-y for my taste, but it also suits, I think, the Raptor to look a little bit more industrialized and rugged than the normal Sasquatch, for example. And we also need to talk about, of course, these massive fenders covering the 37-inch tires. So when the Bronco first came out, I did make a redesign of it and designed it to be more of a square shape of the fenders, and it looked pretty good. The only problem I had with that design was that it started to look a lot more like a regular Wrangler, because the Wrangler has squared off fenders, while the normal Bronco, they all rounded across following the curvature of the tire, which looks really good. But the thing is, they didn't just square off the fenders here, they actually designed them completely different in the front and the back. This piece is also removable because rocks are probably gonna smash this piece first, so you can easily remove this if you want to and just replace it. Look at the design of these fenders. You have it ending right here, so it doesn't follow as deep as it does on the Wrangler, for example, in the front end. And then it goes back here, and you have almost like a triple fender here, because you have this fender up here, this line sticking out and making it wider, then you have this, and last but not least, you also have this little section here, which I assume is to help from rocks hitting the rear fender too much. One detail I love about the Bronco Raptor, the one design feature or graphic detail, are these side vents. So this just looks like the gills of a shark or something, and the thing is, they're actually functional. So if I don't know if you can see in there, but you actually have hot air from the engine bay going out here, and you also have functional vents up here. So there are no fake vents in the Bronco, and I really appreciate that. This is of course also unique to the Raptor. A design detail that it's very interesting on the Raptor or the Bronco in general compared to, for example, the Wrangler, is the design and engineering of the side mirrors, because as you can see, these are not part of the door itself. And the reason for that, which I'm sure you know, is because the doors and pretty much the roof, a lot of panels are removable, so you can basically disassemble the Bronco, not just the Raptor but any Bronco, to the bare bones. And that means that we need to have roll cages on the inside as well, which I'm going to show you. So moving on to the rear end, and as you can see, the biggest feature that kind of strikes you immediately when you see it back here is of course the big spare tire that kind of covers up the entire tailgate. In this case, we do have a blacked out Bronco logo right here, and you also have the Raptor logo tucked in the lower part of the corner here where it actually fits, and you can see it. These taillights also unique for the Raptor. We have two separated taillights, and you have the reverse light in the middle. I think that also adds to this industrial look that we have of the Raptor compared to the normal Bronco. And you need to have the marker lights in the rear end as well. So we have the amber lights in the front end to visualize the width of this beast, and then you have the same kind of treatment in the rear. So you have 3 lights here, 1, 2, 3. However, this integration not as cool as the integration that we have in the front with the 3 amber lights, in my opinion. I do love it in this stealth or matte black wrap. So this is a PPF wrap on this thing, and it makes it look even more beastly in matte black because it kind of blends in now with these fenders. And I think it's almost the exact same shade of black, so it makes the fenders look maybe a little bit more integrated in the overall design than if we were to have, for example, a yellow or something like that, very strong color on the body itself. All right, so with that said, we've talked about the exterior design, what I think about it. Overall, I think it's a great looking truck. However, I wish it came in a 2-door configuration and kind of competed with the very, very cool Land Rover V8 that it's 2-door. One of my favorite SUVs is a 2-door V8 Land Rover, so if this came in 2-door as well, with a little bit of a shorter wheelbase, I think it would just look really, really cool. However, you only get the Bronco Raptor in this configuration as a 4-door. All right, so let's jump in and have a look at what's going on in the interior with the screens. Are the screens really integrated well in this design? Or is it just an iPad stuck on the dash? Let's have a look. All right, so let's climb in and have a look at the interior of the Bronco Raptor. First thing you notice, very thick, nice steering wheel to hold. You also have this marker in the center that is specific for the Raptor. And when we fire it up, we have a very high resolution gauge cluster, which I love. You can configure this however you want. And we have a 12-inch infotainment screen. So look at the screen. This is exactly what I want to see in interiors today. We don't need to have just an iPad stuck up here. This is a beautiful integration of the infotainment screen, even though it is pretty large. It's 12 inches, but it still feels like it sits nicely. You have this chamfer here, for example, kind of makes it feel like it's part of the design. And this specific Bronco Raptor also has the carbon fiber package, which is proper carbon fiber, and it looks so good, specifically on this beautiful steering wheel here. And also down here you have carbon fiber pieces sprinkled a little bit all across the interior. But one thing I love about this interior is the simplicity of the layout. So you have a big, massive, a sturdy dash here with the Bronco stamped into it in this specific Raptor accent color. Looks super cool. You have tactile buttons and dials for the controls that you use the most. So this is exactly what I want to see in a modern interior. Good integration of the screen and also tactile buttons for the most common features that you want to reach quickly and not have to use a touchscreen for. Upstairs we have these auxiliary buttons right here, switches, which you can hook up to whatever you want. You can have external lights, you can have a big train horn if you want that, hook it up to whatever you like, accessories on the outside, and just plug them into these settings up here. Very cool. And you also have some touch controls here. So look at these buttons. This is a really good design based on what this car is. These are rubberized, and the entire interior is very easy to just clean and wash off should you go off-roading and go crazy in the desert or in the mud or doing something like that. Very good design thinking from Ford to make these rubberized and super easy to clean off. So you have front and rear locking differential, you have the sway bar disconnect, and then you have traction control off and the hazard lights. So really good interior. You have this sturdy handle as well for passengers when you're doing the Baja races. Clean and functional, exactly what I want to see in a modern interior. And in addition, these paddles feel sturdy as well. Feels very good to control, and it has a nice click to them when you use them. So let's jump back to the rear seat and let's see the space back there, if we actually have any, or what's the deal with that. So the back seat, as you can see, not much to talk about back here, but it is pretty tight when it comes to legroom. For example, you can see here, this is behind my own driving position, and you can see that it's pretty tight, but you still have decent amount of space for what it is. And you also have these big bars at the top, because these panels, the entire roof is of course removable, so you have these big an entire cage that goes all around the interior to of course protect you if you happen to roll over while you have the roof off, or even when you have the roof on. I guess I don't think these panels are going to protect you that much. Now, one thing I want to mention about this engine bay is I actually like what they did here and did not put any cover on it, and just shows you exactly what's going on in this 3-liter twin-turbo V6. Even the Ford F-150 Raptor gets a nice cover that looks like it has abs on it, the typical performance cover that you have on pretty much every single performance engine. But in this case, it just looks like a maze of hoses and electronics and all kinds of stuff in there. But in my opinion, as I said, I think it kind of adds to the ruggedness of the Bronco. Even the normal Bronco has the same layout under the hood, and it doesn't really bother me. I've heard a lot of people complaining about this, that it looks ugly. In my opinion, it looks industrial and very functional. So let's talk about the settings here on the steering wheel. Here you have the normal volume settings, the cruise control, settings for the radio, and down here you can choose the setting for your steering if you want it in normal. Yes, I know that the hood is open, thank you. You want to have it in normal, comfort, or sport, and then you have the R button right here, which is a customizable button. You can customize this to your own settings. And you have the suspension settings on this button, normal, sport, or off-road. And then of course you have the exhaust, normal, sport, or Baja mode. Baja of course is the sportiest sound coming out of this V6. All right guys, let's take the Bronco Raptor for a quick drive and see what these 418 horsepower feels like in an almost 6,000 pound car. Still love the gauge clusters, and the infotainment screen looks really good. Driver door open. There we go. All right, let's go up here and then let's put it in all the modes that we want to put it in. So let's put it in, of course we need Baja mode for the exhaust, and we need sport for the steering, and I think those are all the settings we have. We have this, of course, go over all terrain mode and goat mode. You can change that here, but I'm not gonna do that right now. I'm just gonna have it in two-wheel drive. Kind of see how it puts the power down in two-wheel drive. Interesting indicator noise. It's like a damped ticking noise. Keep it in auto for now. It sounds pretty good for a twin turbo V6. Not sure if some some of the exhaust notes is actually pumped into the cabin. Honestly, I used to be against that a lot, specifically when BMW came out in their M models, I think the previous generation M4 and M3. But it actually does enhance the driving experience when you have a little bit more noise in the interiors, because usually cars are so quiet these days. We have new regulations that demand the exhaust to be quieter, specifically in Europe. So having those exhaust notes kind of artificially pumped into the cabin, I guess it could be a cool idea to have that. I don't know if you can see, the rear visibility is pretty horrible just because we have the big 35-37 tire, and then we have the marker lights, of course, attached above that. Not worse than my truck with the tent in the bed. I guess that's one thing that you get used to. I do love that I can see the big fenders in the rear, in the side of the mirrors. It just makes it feel like you're sitting inside of a beast. So let's turn around here and see if we can floor it a little bit on the way back. I like the downshifts. It has rev matching to them, which sounds nice. Let this Honda Civic pass. Oh, it feels good. It's weird that this this car weighs 5,700 pounds. It's just incredible that it's able to move like this. But that's what you get these days. You get a lot heavier cars, you get the EVs. I don't know how much, for example, an EQS weighs, but that goes like crazy. So I think engineers are working a lot on how they can solve this problem with added weight, specifically with EVs, and how they can still remain or retain the drivability or the sportiness of it. And this is, of course, an SUV, so it sits a lot higher than an EQS, but still. There's no getting around adding weight when you have EVs, unfortunately. The turning radius is surprisingly small. Really good turning radius with these massive 37-inch tires. I'm impressed by the radius for sure. Maybe you don't need a two-door. Turning radius of this is totally fine. Let's check out the rear cameras. They are pretty decent. You have the 360 view, of course. Very helpful when you're parking and when you're going off-road as well. It's something I wish I had in my Ram Rebel over there. Decent resolution, not super high definition, but you don't really need anything more than this. You can see how the resolution is when you zoom in right here. Looks pretty good. So that's my quick review of the Ford Bronco Raptor. Thanks again to Urban Motors right here in Denver for letting me spend some time with this beast today. If you're interested in this, I'm gonna link their website down in the description, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.